The Mecklenburg County ABC Law Enforcement Division provides a free training program to ABC permitted establishments called the Alcohol Seller and Server Excellence Training to educate employees on the possession and sale of alcohol. This ABC officer training covers underage sales, forms of acceptable identification, and employee age requirements. The Mecklenburg County ABC Board, more than a bottle.
Hi, I'm Melanie Pratt. I am your midday host for Praise 100.9. Welcome to Radio 1 Charlotte's Community Mental Health Series in partnership with the Mecklenburg County Alcoholic Beverage and Control Board. Now, this will be a space where you will find hope, resources, and assistance. And each month, we will discuss a topic for you, our listeners, that can affect your overall mental and behavioral health. So for this month, our topic is housing and homelessness. And to provide us with the toolbox needed to navigate, we have not one, but two amazing organizations coming together. And in no particular order, the first organization is a Giving Heart Project with Miss Glennis Davis, founder and executive director. And the second organization is Roof Above, Mr. Joe Hamby, Director of Community Education. Welcome, Ms. Davis and Mr. Hamby. Thanks so much for joining me today for Community Health, sponsored by the Mecklenburg County ABC Board.
Thank you so much for having us.
So glad you are both here. Ms. Davis, I'll start with you. Thank you so much again for being with us for our mental and behavioral health initiative, Community Mental Health, where this month we're focusing on housing and homelessness, a subject discussed and some progress has been made, but can you tell us about your organization, A Giving Heart Project, Inc.?
Yes, thank you again. So Giving Heart Project, we are a mission-driven, community-focused nonprofit organization founded back in 2018. We believe in providing equitable and sustainable solutions to help eliminate barriers and disparities for folks in need here in Mecklenburg County. Founded by Native Charlotteans, we love our city and we give back to our city in three key ways. We provide case management support to families experiencing homelessness and housing insecurity. We also provide prevention-based workshops for youth for a multifaceted and upstream approach to help tool and equip young people to overcome barriers that can ultimately lead to homelessness. And then we also host community outreach events where we partner with other organizations to bring resources and information to folks in need in different areas of the community.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the work you do in our community. Mr. Hamby, I'll ask the same from you. Can you tell our audience an overview about Roof Above?
Absolutely. Grateful to have this opportunity to share more about Roof Above. Roof Above was the product of a merger of the Men's Shelter of Charlotte and the Urban Ministry Center around 5 years ago. And so we're relatively new. We're not a new organization, but we have a new name, Roof Above. And it explains really exactly what we're about. We're about uniting the community to end homelessness one life at a time. And that begins with street outreach. We have folks, we have team members who are engaging with folks who are living on the streets, wherever they may find themselves. We have our day services center here where anyone can come onto our campus. We provide lunch every day. We have nursing care, mail services, laundry, showers. Anything that you can imagine. Probably one of our biggest needs are cough drops. So just things as simple, those simple items that just make you feel better about trying to get through the day, like cough drops and hand warmers and warm socks are all things that we're able to provide here, along with housing assistance. But then we have emergency shelter for over 500 men every night of the year. We've never closed. But as I said before, our goal is to end homelessness. And so we have a variety of supporting housing communities that we provide staffing for. That's a little bit about Roof Above.
Amazing. And we're grateful for the work that your organization does in this community as well. Thank you both for introducing your organizations to our viewers. Now, let's start the discussion surrounding housing and homelessness. And this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I've done work with several organizations here in the city. And, there's situational homelessness, there's crisis homelessness, there's all sorts of things, but mental health definitely plays into whatever the angle is. Mr. Hamby, can you start us off by discussing the relationship between housing insecurity and homelessness as it relates to mental health?
Sure. One of my mentors is a man named Matthew Desmond, and he has this famous statement about shelter and homelessness. And he says this: without stable shelter, it all falls apart.
Hmm.
And we see that every day at our day services center, where folks are always in that survival mode and not able to really address other issues in their life without that stable shelter. And this is particularly acute for those who are experiencing have a mental illness, a severe mental illness, or a mental health diagnosis. I think, one person comes to, several people come to mind automatically for me. One young man with intellectual developmental disability. He's on the autism spectrum. He's waiting on his Social Security and SSDI disability. He does not have a lot of family support, so he's in a city basically by himself. And so he is challenged by all these different factors and trying to end his homelessness, but having all these other factors coming into play makes it it's an incredibly daunting experience for someone like him. Another young man that comes to mind has multiple sclerosis, also has other unaddressed mental health diagnoses. And again, he is currently living on the streets. And so the ability to respond to just basic mental health care and remember when those appointments are and having transportation to those appointments, and yet at the same time not having any stable income or ability sometimes to get to those appointments without somebody coming alongside him and supporting him in that is really challenging.
There are lots of challenges that people don't understand or misunderstand. What is something, what is there a myth or a misunderstanding about homelessness that you'd like people to see more clearly today?
Wow. One of those, foundationally is that I think a lot of us just have this sense that homelessness is a just an unfortunate fact of life. And the reality is that homelessness as we know it today has not always been a part of the American experience. Certainly there have been times following the Civil War, there were obviously folks that were free but without housing, and other times in our history. But really, until the late 70s, early 1980s, we did not see homelessness at the scope that we are experiencing it today. So we know what got us here. We know what got us here, and so we know it can get us. We know it can end homelessness. Another one that common is that a myth that we hear is that homelessness is somehow a lifestyle choice. That there's this allure of living on the streets. And I can tell you from conversations we have every day, when we close here at the Day Services Center and night falls, homelessness and living on the streets is a very brutal, frightening experience. And so when I hear someone say, well, it's a lifestyle choice, maybe someone has made peace with the fact that they have a community of friends that they're living in a tent encampment with. But if they were offered an opportunity to have more stable shelter than that, with that same community, would they take us up on that offer? And in the vast majority of times, a person is going to say, absolutely, Absolutely.
Absolutely. Ms. Davis, there are organizations, there's legislation, there are individuals even that are working to combat these issues. What are some important initiatives that you're aware of in the community that is to benefit and looking forward to helping our unhoused neighbors?
Great question, Melanie. I think that one of the most impressive entities that I have the pleasure of being a part of is our local continuum of care, our COC. That is a body of professionals and organizations and community members that are invested in ensuring that homelessness is rare, brief, and non-recurring. And I've been fortunate enough to be a part of that organization now and understanding a lot of the work that happens behind the scenes to support organizations that are doing great work, not only financially, but also technically, providing technical assistance and training, offering forums for community voice to be heard, in equipping these various entities and organizations, both nonprofit and entities that exist, larger entities that exist, with being able to support our unhoused neighbors, finding solutions, and championing that. I've met some amazing advocates through our continuum of care, community members that are all invested in trying to do the work of ending homelessness, collaborating, sitting shoulder to shoulder with our street outreach team that is out here day and night, connecting with individuals, getting them some of their basic essentials and supplies so they can survive some of these winter nights. But also helping to connect them with resources that exist to help them engage with the system so that they can ultimately end their homelessness. Additionally, there's an amazing initiative headed up by the United Way called A Home for All. They're doing great work. I encourage everyone to connect and learn more about what A Home for All is all about. I happen to have the pleasure of being a part of one of their implementation teams, and took part in some of the beginning groundwork for planning for what A Home for All would attempt to address. But there's a lot of amazing work coming out of that organization or that entity as well. The People Pillar, which I happen to have the pleasure of being a part of, is doing work with creating some online resources so that people can connect, specifically our unhoused neighbors, to engage with these supports that exist in the neighborhood, in the community. So, and then other nonprofit organizations. I work shoulder to shoulder with amazing nonprofit leaders that are doing great work here, from helping the folks get their identification. Like I said, one of my good friends is the leader of our street outreach team. Our formerly incarcerated neighbors. We have organizations that we love and support that work with our formerly incarcerated neighbors. And then organizations like a Given Heart Project that provide those supportive services, ultimately to all address those challenges that our folks face. Like Mr. Hemby said, it's Hemby, excuse me, Joe. There's a lot of things that are misconceptions about what leads to homelessness, and it takes a network and a support system to help address those things in a meaningful way.
And I love what you're saying, because the approaches are diverse, because the faces of our unhoused neighbors are diverse. And one group, or a couple of groups, are families and youth. Ms. Davis, what are some of the biggest challenges that families and young people are facing as it pertains to homelessness and mental health in Charlotte right now?
Absolutely. Another great question. I really believe that affordable housing, right, is an incredible challenge. Housing insecurity is the issue. Folks that are able to get housed, families being able to afford to stay housed, that is a challenge here in Charlotte. Just the cost of living changes, and unfortunately, pay and earnings don't quite match that cost of living, the increase here in Mecklenburg County. So families are being priced out and aren't able to sustain and maintain their housing and the stability that we know our children need here in Mecklenburg County. This year alone, we're up to about 4,900 youth that are registered as McKinney-Vento, which would be children or youth that are enrolled in our school system that are either doubled up, unhoused, sleeping in a hotel or shelter or someplace that is not necessarily a stable home or housing environment. Last year, we closed out the school year with about 5,400 kids registered as McKinney-Vento. And so this up to this point this year, and we will continue to register kids throughout the remainder of this school year, we're already on track to exceed that number. And I that's nothing to boast about, right? And then we have in that subset of kids that are in our school system that are experiencing homelessness and housing insecurity, we also have this other group that Joe spoke about, these unaccompanied youth, right? These young people that may not have a caregiver overseeing them. They're alone. They are fending for themselves, literally. And they're trying to navigate these huge systems that exist while also being unhoused. And so those are a lot of challenges that are facing our community that we have to focus on.
We are post-COVID. We're in a new political era, a new economic era. Mr. Hamby, can you help us zero in on what the current data tells us about the number of people experiencing homelessness?
Sure. Nationally, the latest figures indicate that we continue to see a rise in homelessness across the country as well as here locally. Our highest numbers ever were recorded in the latest point in time count. Over 770,000 persons were counted as experiencing homelessness in 2024. And that's a 18% increase over the previous years, which, as Glennis said, it's not a number any of us want to see. Locally, we've continued to see a rise in homelessness here as well. We saw a 10% rise in persons experiencing homelessness here in Charlotte, Mecklenburg this past year. I think it's interesting that Glennis mentioned the number of children and youth that are experiencing homelessness who are measured by the Department of Education and McKinney-Vento. And it's interesting that our numbers, the numbers that we use here locally, are usually around the 3,000, a little over 3,000 as of our latest February numbers. And yet, and that's by Housing and Urban Development measures, whereas the Department of Education measures homelessness with a wider lens. And so that we have actually, by their count, more children experiencing homelessness than our HUD numbers would indicate. So, and we also know that any number, when we went out this past January for our point in time count, any number that we try to count is an undercount. Because on any given night, someone could be staying with a relative, could have gotten a night in a hotel room because it was especially cold, or we just didn't see them, or they were staying in their cars, or they joined together with a group of friends to rent a hotel room for the night. So those numbers are that's an undercount by every measure.
Ms. Davis, I know you mentioned McKinney-Vento population before. Can you tell us what some things that might be unique to this population and how we might best serve them?
Yeah, I think the first step is the awareness, right? Mm-hmm. I think even one child being housing insecure, the implications of that ripple across our community and for generations to come. And I think that, understanding that McKinney-Vento students are kids that may not have a fixed, regular, adequate nighttime residence, right? So that means they could be couch surfing, but if that's not their home, then is there certainty there? They could be living in a hotel or a motel or in our shelter system. They could be sleeping in cars. One of the things that our street outreach leadership says is we don't need any babies outside, period. So again, to echo, one family outside is too many. And these unaccompanied youth, particularly, they face the challenges of not only trying to obtain education, but also the things that may help them to become productive members of society, access to their documents, right? Access to support, healthcare. All these things are just compounded by the fact that they are housing insecure or unhoused, you know? And I think that as we look at young people, school age youth particularly, that are trying to achieve academically, and you compound that with the fact that they are dealing with this traumatic experience of being unhoused, how successful are we as a system going to see our kids come out when they have to address these fundamental needs of having a safe and habitable place to sleep and having the stability of knowing where home will be. But we ask them to come in and perform well on standardized testing and do great on their projects and, you know, all these things that contribute and behave well in the classroom.
Well, I was going to say that. Yes, absolutely. Beyond the McKinney-Vento population, can you help us understand what kind of support a Giving Heart project offers through case management and client navigation?
Absolutely. So through our case management and client navigation program, we receive referrals from various resources. Families self-refer. We have partners and various agencies and community-based organizations that will send us referrals. Our referral form stays available on our website, but we engage a family. Our goal is to identify what their goals may be, right? We may say you need housing, and that's your first and foremost goal. But we also know that there are other contributing factors that if these things aren't addressed, trying to get me here is not going to solve my problem, right? So we try to identify the client-centered goal and work towards achieving that goal. And oftentimes housing is top of mind, but there's also things like making sure a child with a different ability gets the resources that they need so that caregiver can sustain their employment and show up regularly, which will allow them to sustain their housing when they are housed. Those are some of the things that we work with our families on. We also make sure that we're linking them to financial literacy and educational opportunities so that, again, whatever their goal may be, we're helping them to sustain whatever change we put in place in partnership with them. We also connect them with other community resources to make sure that even if a Giving Heart project isn't the source of that support, they're connected with other entities that may be able to meet that need. And we also help to get them connected with the existing systems because Mecklenburg County is a resource-rich community, but sometimes our people perish for lack of knowledge.
And that the network is so important. And I love to hear the continued theme of working together, supporting other organizations, and we want to be helpful. We don't necessarily need to be right or first. We want to help this community. Mr. Hamby, can you please share with us what is permanent supportive housing and how can the housing first model support someone with mental illness?
Well, permanent supportive housing is exactly what it says it is. I kind of like to break it up, those words, permanent, which is, it is what it is. It's a permanent place to live, a permanent place to stay. Supportive means that, and housing first is not housing only. It's not housing only. It's housing with those supports, and not only case management supports, but also that supportive, surrounding that person with a supportive community that knows when they've left for the day and are coming home at night, and all those kinds of things that create community that we all value. So supportive housing, of course, we believe that decent, affordable housing is a basic human right. And so we seek that kind of supportive housing for everyone who's in need, and particularly those who have a mental health diagnosis. Is certainly critical to surrounding them with that kind of care and support.
It's interesting to me. We're talking specifically about mental illness, but even if you do not have a diagnosed mental illness, going through any one or number of these experiences rather can be mentally taxing. And so support is needed with regard to just having the experience. And so again, thank you both so much for the support that your organizations provide. Ms. Davis, you have several programs that focus on resilience and prevention and empowerment. Can you share a little bit more about them? And also, please tell us about the Tribe House and how it serves as a resource for the community.
Absolutely. So at A Giving Heart Project, much like we were just discussing, folks that are in need not just a singular approach, because housing insecurity is a multifaceted challenge for folks. So we at A Giving Heart Project really believe in addition to the case management, where we create a client-centered plan, we understand the impacts of these challenging circumstances that folks find themselves in, which has an incredible impact on their mental well-being. So we know that change and resilience is built fundamentally based on relationship. So that is the cornerstone of the way that we provide support for our families, is through that relationship, building that trust. We're working to connect them with mental health support if they need it. And unfortunately, and fortunately, the systems exist where people can connect, but unfortunately people need to, right? Because they're experiencing these very, very challenging circumstances. Additionally, in addition to our case management program, we do provide prevention-based workshops for youth. And a huge component of our prevention-based workshops is our mental health component. So we're talking to youth about chronic disease. We're talking to them about substance use and vaping prevention and alcohol prevention. We're also talking to them about promoting their mental well-being. And a big piece of that is building their resilience, understanding what that means, understanding the impact of trauma. Although we all experience trauma in various ways, just understanding how their body will respond and how they can equip themselves and leverage existing tools and trusted adults in the community to build their capacity to overcome these barriers that they will face. So that's a big piece of what we do through our prevention workshops. We are trauma informed and resilience focused in all that we do. So we leverage the arts to bring conversations about resilience into the forefront for our young people in a fun and engaging way. And then we also, through our community outreach, we partner and focus on the 8 dimensions of wellness. So we're not just giving a man a fish, right? We are teaching them to fish by connecting them with other community partners that may meet their mental health needs, or can address their physical needs, or can help meet their educational requests and spiritual needs, and all the holistic approach to a person's well-being. So in everything that we do at A Giving Heart Project, that is what we focus on, is trying to look at the whole individual and beyond their circumstances.
Collaboration is key, and a collaborative approach is also key. And in that spirit, I'm going to ask both of you this question. Mr. Hamby, I'll ask you to go first, and then Ms. Davis. How can community members or businesses, faith-based organizations get involved in supporting your mission?
Well, thank you again, Melanie. This has been great, and it's been great to hear from Glennis. I just love hearing about partners like A Giving Heart that are doing such incredible work, because you are so right. It takes all of us joining together to respond to, the needs of our community. At Roof Above, I first would say go to our website. We have, I think, a very informative website. So visit our website, roofabove.org, and learn more about what we do. But in a more general sense, learn all you can about homelessness. And there are one would be getting proximate to homelessness, which would mean volunteering in some way. And I think so often we see someone from a distance, and we may make all kinds of judgments about who that person is or how they got where they are or all those kinds of factors. And when we're able to get proximate, get close to somebody, learn their story, I think we bring a whole new dimension of humility to our work with homelessness and housing instability, because none of us are self-made. And so many of us live with forms of privilege that we're really not we often acknowledge that enabled us to be where we are right now. I know that's certainly true for me. So I would say visit our website, learn all you can in all the means that you can, volunteer. And then lastly, we need your support financially. I'll just be perfectly honest with you there. Your financial gifts matter. And just to let your audience know, between now and the end of May, every gift that you would make to someone like Roof Above will be, the impact will be doubled. We have generous donors who will double the impact of your gift up to $300,000. So we would be most grateful for any kind of support. Any dollar amount helps. But I think, again, the most important thing is learning all you can and daring to get close enough to be changed and transformed yourself. I think we find in our work here, we're amazed at the resilience and the hopefulness of the persons that we work with every day. And I come away inspired just at what they face and what they've overcome and what they're overcoming. So the gift you give to others is really the gift you give to yourself.
I love that. Ms. Davis?
Yes. Oh man, I love what Joe said about learning what you can. There's some really key ways you can do that. Again, A Home for All. Follow them. They're on Facebook. They're on Instagram. They have a website. Connect. Come to a local COC meeting. They are in your community. They take place where we're talking about the things that matter as it relates to making sure that we're doing what we can to make sure homelessness is rare, brief, and non-recurring. So join those. Those are some two key ways. You just missed the point in time survey where you can actually go out, put your boots on in the cold, and go out and see where our neighbors are resting their heads on these cold winter nights. But put that on your calendar for next year. Put it on your calendar for next year. Join the point in time count. Volunteers are needed. It takes hundreds maybe to get that off and up and running. So please make sure you're a part of that. But specifically for an organization like a Giving Heart Project, we like your time, your talents, and your tokens, right? Volunteer your time. We are a grassroots small organization for now. And so being able to leverage your time, your skills, your expertise, we have opportunities to volunteer at our upcoming events. On March 15th, we have a community give back event. Follow us on Eventbrite and you can connect and sign up to volunteer. We host events throughout the year. We also host our prevention workshops, and there's opportunity for volunteers to join us there. Our next one is coming up on April 26th, and we'd love to see you there just to be a part of that prevention work. But give of your time or your talents. We have board seats. Other organizations also look for invested community members that are willing to put their hand to the plow, because we know that many hands make light work, and this is not easy work. And then your tokens, like Joe said, being able for folks to invest their money part with their hard-earned seeds to invest in this work, it makes this work possible. So for Giving Heart Project, it would mean the world and help us to continue the work that we do throughout the community. Invest in this work, whether it's with a Giving Heart Project or another community-based organization. If you have a heart for seeing an end to homelessness and to seeing support, necessary and real support happen for these families and these individuals experiencing homelessness, then you must invest where you believe, right?
Yes.
So look and do your research, find some organization that you trust and believe in, and make those donations. A Giving Heart Project, we also accept in-kind contributions. So if you have clothing items or toiletries or resources that you would like to invest in other families that are newly housed, they need to equip their whole new home, right? They're starting over. Or families that may be in that in-between space and just need access to toiletries and laundry detergent. I guarantee you there's a need. So just reach out to us, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We also have our website, www.agivingheartproject.org, and find a way to connect and partner with organizations doing this work. But the most important way is use your voice.
Yes.
Advocate for people that are in need. Whether or not you want to invest your time or have capacity to invest your money, use your voice, because we all have it and it won't cost you anything. To make sure you're sharing the message about what you've learned on this show, or once you've connected with the COC or a Home for All, speak about it in your different social networks to bring awareness. Because when we know better, we do better.
I know from my work, one of the challenges is that it is such a huge challenge with so many facets and so many faces. And so it has opportunity to be discouraging. But what I learned is that each person counts, and each any way that you can help, any amount of help is help. And we touched on it a little bit, that the approaches are diverse because the issue is very vast and diverse. And so the good news about that is that any one of us can get in with our gifts, whether they be financial, whether they be talents of yours, resources of yours. There's space for you to jump in and be a help. I want to say thank you to you, Ms. Davis and Mr. Hamby, for those takeaways and resources for our viewers to place in their toolbox, and to come alongside you and your organizations. And I want to say thank you to both of your organizations. And again, that's a Giving Heart Project. Ms. Glennis Davis, she's the founder and executive director. Mr. Joe Hamby, director of community education with Roof Above. And I pray that our listeners take advantage of the resources and information that was shared today and jump in and help. I know that someone could benefit from the services provided by your organizations. You can see the contact information at the bottom of the screen. We also want to say a special thank you to the Mecklenburg County ABC Board for making all of this possible by providing the community with the means and resources for organizations such as a Giving Heart Project and a Roof Above. We thank you so much for this platform. We again thank you for your time. Together as a community, we can put an end to housing insecurity and homelessness. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.